invite Jesse to join us. He has worked full-time in the salon for close to 2 decades. He's a veteran educator of over 15 years and is obsessed with the unique challenges and educational needs of the working hairdresser. Jesse has taught hundreds of classes from coast to coast in every situation and venue imaginable. He is known for his real-world demeanor and teaching language in hairdressing that is really down to earth. And I've had the pleasure to watch him live. So he is incredible. Comment with questions for him, and let's welcome Jesse Linares.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Oh man, hearing those words like in the business for decades and a veteran, boy, the lines in my face, right? I feel them. I'm just kidding. Happy Valentine's Day. Why do we work on Valentine's Day but not President's Day? I don't, somehow they deserve more love, I guess. That's cool. Well, welcome to my romancing of one of the most successful relationships that I've had for 18 years. And that is my love of haircutting. It's good and bad, right? To be in love with something. And so today we're going to be talking about, we're calling it the shattered bob, right? We got to have those cool terms, but this haircut, you maybe have seen it called many things. I go to my junior stylist at my salon whenever I need to know what's happening out there because I don't have TikTok and they do. So I'm always like, what haircut do we need to do this week when we go live on YouTube? What do we need to give the people? And they keep coming back to this same shape that they call the bobcat. When you break it down into its form in actuality, I would probably say the closest thing we could get it to would be a rounder lob. So the lobs, what we loved about the lobs was that they were sort of off the shoulder, giving us a lot of room to show length because they weren't really layer heavy at the very beginning. They were rooted in the technique of balayage highlighting. So, we needed to have length on the hair to show the gradation of the color. If you're with me, say yes. So having that length there, they tended to be a little bit boxy towards the bottom, right? And then we saw that evolved into the shag, where we took those lengths and began to just make them a whole lot leaner by giving it layers. And then the shags got longer, and now guess what? We're back to something that we want off the shoulder, something in bob territory, but maybe not having that classic feeling of a rounded bob. So we're going to do a kind of a round lob, if you will. And what I'm working on right now is just carving out in a just inside the hairline sort of way to give myself a perimeter that moves from the center parting at the top of the head and carries me to the center parting at the back of the head, and just following the natural curvature of the head. How did we know where to put this parting? We're just looking for enough perimeter to drop out of here. That way we can nail the perimeter from front all the way to the back, and this curved section allows us to capture all of that hair at once. I saw that done for the first time by the master, DJ Muldoon. That guy, really amazing to watch. If you ever get a chance, see him. Most of my ideas I learned from watching other people, so I've always been good about if I say something that I didn't make up, I'll try and give you props for who did, so you can go check them out. DJ Muldoon. Now, just getting enough density on this, and you can see that the dampness on the hair that is kind of dried up just a little bit. So we want to have enough moisture on this to where we get to have control of it, but we also don't want to make it so freaking damp that we can't see the characteristics of the hair itself, because today's looks, as we know, are very, very much rooted in naturalness and movement and texture. So we don't want to mess that up. So we'll bring that back to just a stage of dampness that gives us that control. Hey, Katie, if you're out there, would you mind flashing up that first image for us? That's just a little electronic head form for you that gives us the idea of where we're sitting at right now. Thank you so much for that. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Bringing her in a little bit. Thanks, Katie. All right. I've seen people coming onto the stream from all over the place. I saw Germany out there a minute ago. What's up? Thank you. I'm not good with geography, so I don't know what time it is there, but I know it's got to be at least 6 or 7 hours different. So whatever time it is, it's later or much earlier. Thanks for being here. making that same section on the other side. And then we're going to start to talk about the whys on this. Now, will this parting be exactly the same on both sides? Maybe not, because the objective of the parting is to create a line that moves from front to rear and gives us our perimeter, but also leaving enough density in that perimeter for us to have something that's solid all the way across. So, if they're not totally symmetrical on both sides, if their hairline has, differences in behavior from one side to the other, then that parting may change slightly. I'm just bringing this up now loosely, not really putting a lot of torque or tension on that, just getting it up and out of the way so we can take a look at this. And then just like we did on the other side, let's keep that dampness consistent. Now I've got the comments feed going over there on my computer. I get a look at it when I can, but Katie will be also monitoring you guys like hawks. So if there's a question that really needs to be asked, or if it's one that I missed, she will make an explosion onto my screen so I can see it and answer it for you. So definitely ask those questions, please. All right, so we've dropped out enough for a perimeter here. You can see that she came to us with a little bit of fringe that exists already. We're just going to work that into the mix. True story. I thought this mannequin was brand new. I had swiped it from our show booth when we were on the road last year, and it was in a bag and everything. And then I pulled it out this morning and check this out. Someone's already been at it. I think it was Sam, because it's got his name written on the bottom of it. I'm going to get you for that, Sam, on Thursday. All right. So we've dropped this perimeter out. You guys doing okay out there? Awesome. Now we're going to be working today for texture. And as we set up this perimeter here, we want to make sure that we don't go in and undo our objective by creating too many clean lines. So by and large today, I'm going to be coming at this shape with our Artist Series slide cutting shear. Get my hand behind that so you can get a good look. Yeah, you'll notice on this that the blades actually curve away, curve away from us as the blades come to a close. And what that's designed to do is as it reaches about this point, it's going to begin to push the hair out of the scissor, giving us a very silky, buttery feeling, especially for techniques when we're working from the interior. Is this the shear that you want to use if you want to make a laser line? Maybe not necessarily, but when working from the interior or for deep texture and point cutting, it's really a lot of fun. Let's raise her up a little bit. I gave myself a little more room in here today. I opened up the camera angle some. It meant that I actually had to put pants on today. Normally I'm in my jammies, but I wear a shirt and tie from the neck up for all you guys that came to see something. All right, so we're looking for where that length is going to go. And let's bring up that inspo just so we can all be on the same page. Hey, Katie, show the picture of the two lovely models. This is not my work. They were just clipped from the internet. I hope nobody minds. This lovely lady on the left there that really kind of shows us that it gets a little bit less full towards the bottom there. And then another variation on that, but cut with similar sectioning, the lovely Marion Cotillard. She is, yeah, that looks nice. So we're going to be looking for that now. And so at the bottom of this shape, we're going to give ourselves permission to have a nice heavier line that moves across. I'm actually seated now in a cutting stool that I have in here with me so I can keep my big nugget out of the way while we do this. Now look at the section that we've drawn. And that's something that we want to talk about right now, because this diagonal back, or some people may call it round idea, is going to cause the layers to move backwards, away from the face. And that's the way that this shape is really designed to be styled. Not really so much forward, framing the face so much, early 90s, but getting to where it pushes back a little bit, more like early 80s. I love that the 70s and 80s are getting mishmashed into everything right now. So this parting that moves diagonal back is going to also scribe for us the angle that our perimeter should follow. Just like if you've seen me do a bob that moves longer or shorter in the back and longer to the front, we know that that's contingent upon diagonal forward sectionings to allow us to create that. This haircut is actually exactly opposite of that. So it's going to be moving backwards, but we're still going to be using this line to show us where the hair needs to be pulled out to as we work around the head in a 90-degree fashion. So for the perimeter now, we're looking for that to follow this line moderately. And so as we work the perimeter, we're just going to go in and make cuts is that we know the line's going to move back this way, and we're going to allow ourselves to just have a little bit of fun with that. This takes a little bit longer to construct, but the effect is very nice. From a distance, you'll have what appears to be a nice heavy line towards the bottom, but that is highly textured, disrupted right there at the bottom because they're going to be in variance in length of about a 1/4 inch as we just sort of chip our way around the bottom here. And you'll notice that we come at it from different angles, allowing those ends just to kind of be set free. And if it moves up and down a little bit, that's totally okay. You want the thing to be loose. So working my way around towards center back and just taking that off. Nice and squarish, if you will, by the time we get to the back. And just really allow yourself to kind of have some fun with that. I myself, in the salon, I actually use a cutting chair and sit down. And that's a nice time to just have a little bit of light conversation with the guest and have a little bit of fun. I like to space out when I cut hair. I get into it. So I get in that little zone, and I love just chipping away at the bottom there. People really take note of that kind of detailing too. Anyone can blast through a haircut and get it done pretty quickly. But when you sit down and take a little bit of time and really give that detail and attention, that's something that'll keep people coming back for more. So look, here's that parting once again on the right side now. And we know that our perimeter needs to respect that a little bit. Now, why are we saying that? When we start to put our layers on, they are also going to be following this line and moving backwards and away and creating a weight that lives kind of roundish this way. If we've let our perimeter become disparate to that movement, meaning if it's not following the same line, then you're going to start to get some little skinny guys up here. And you end up going back and cutting them off anyway. That's okay. Leave them for now. If you're scared, you can always go back and get them. Just remember the rule. Just get them before they leave. So here we're going to begin to work that perimeter, working away from the face. It's designed to be loose, everyone. So don't tie yourself to symmetry. Symmetry doesn't necessarily have to exist. In actuality, most people's heads are not exactly symmetrical on both sides. And in some respects, a haircut cannot be unless they also are. I'm going to sit back down again and just roll her back over here to me, let you guys see what's going on. Here we are on this side. And we're looking for just a nice loose result at the bottom once again. One thing I love about our Artist Series slide cutting shear is you can see that in the closer to the fulcrum, the blades actually are much more straight, and then they begin to curve away about halfway down. So if I work in the interior of the blades and keep the short stroke, I can actually get pretty clean lines. It doesn't start to push until you get out to the ends. So you'll notice that I can get in there and really cut some nice clean lines that way too. This is a scissor that I fell in love with immediately, and then I definitely pick it up again all the time. We have so many great shears to love. I want to give my love to everybody, but this one is never far from my hand in the salon. 30% off everything for Valentine's Day. That's a pretty good opportunity to take a deal. Let me spin her around a little bit. So now we get this perimeter nice and heavy towards the bottom, but once we start to get in front of the ear, it will also angle up to mimic that parting. How you guys doing out there? Give me a hey. Thanks, Shirley. It is fun to cut. I'm having fun right now. We're going to drop down our next sections. Let me just lower her a little bit. You can tell I'm reaching up. I'm 5'8", everybody. There we go. I'll bring her back in just a moment for you. We're going to take our next section. And Katie, while I drop this down, if you're still out there, bud, would you mind dropping up our second image, the one that shows the side and top view? We're getting this idea where if we follow the section line that we had before and we continue around the head, that we're going to end up with this idea that mimics concentric circles, or circles that live within each other, finally drifting to non-existence at that point in the center. So here in the front, we're just going to follow that down. Thanks, Katie. About a 1/2 inch. Just dropping that much down. Our first section was just for the perimeter. We really didn't have to do too much to that. We wanted to keep that solidity there. So the layering is going to begin in these next sections. If you've been tuning in to any of the segments that we've been doing over the past few months, me specifically, I've been really on a parade with this concept of the diagonal back partings, or round concepts, if you will. A lot of the trend shapes, as I see them with my four eyes, they really do look like they have that brush back feeling, designed to open up the cheek and jaw and move away from the face. So these diagonal back partings are really perfect for that. And I'm using them for my fuller pixies, using them for my little surfer boy cuts that I do. And then a lot of just the looser shapes that a lot of people are doing on everybody right now. Bringing this around so I can get that 1/2 inch on the other side. And just follow that line all the way around to the back. And we strive to make our sections perfect, but also understand that if you're spending too much time drawing a laser line in the hair and you're looking for a textured result, you may be contravening your own purpose there. So, get the line in there. If it gets a little wiggle wart, don't worry about it, right? It's going to drop out, and we're cutting for texture anyway, as we're about to see. Bring her around here to the front. So now when we work this 90-degree concept, let's show it, Katie. Bring me that last image if you don't mind. She'll pop that up in just a second. This is my artistic rendering. Please forgive, but I hope that the point comes across is that we're going to be working in small sections that change with the round of the head. In Redken world, where I came from, they called that working to the planes of the head, or working in a section size that is small and flat, meaning that it's not large enough to reflect the curvature of the head in it. Thanks, Katie. Appreciate you, bud. So we want that short, flat section to be right there. And it's usually going to be about my peace sign a little bit. You can notice that if my hand really got longer and wider and I was picking up more of the hair, that you would definitely see that curvature of the head reflected within the section. And so if we do that and we cut straight lines, we're going to get little scoop outs as we move around the nugget. What we want to do is avoid that. And so we're going to work in those small shapes, small enough that we just don't see curvature of the head within that section. So coming up front here, I'm looking for my water bottle. Just give her a little moisture. Okay, so the first section is going to be about 1.5 inches. And we'll pick up just a little bit of what remained in the perimeter. So now what we want to do is make sure that our finger position remains true relative to the parting, meaning if the parting works this way, that we want our fingers to be parallel to that idea, not to rotate or to twist away from where that line exists. That's the beauty of sectioning, is that it demonstrates for our hands how they need to behave when we're making the cut. So we're going to elevate this 90 degrees up, right from where it lives. And there's where her existing fringe is already happening for us. We're going to take that out just a little bit farther than that and give us some room to play. So expanding past that line, holding with good tension, and then I'm going to work from the interior with my slide cutting shear and begin to deeply point cut that away. Now, when we do this, I always like to show the principle. I'm not a slider with my slide cutting shears. When I was trained to use them, it was more about how the blade closes as you move through the hair. And so I took that a step further in my world of hair cutting and made it about the blade being totally motionless, except for its opening and closing idea. So I'm taking a little bit of what we just cut. I'm going to push that away. And now we're going to move about 1.5 inches down the hairline. Notice where this section lives, though. So on this area of the head, 90 degrees is going to be coming straight out like this. So we're not really looking for a 90 to the room vertically or 90 to the room horizontally, but 90 to the head form itself. So where we're picking up the hair in accordance with the section that we've drawn, how we elevate perpendicular from that area of the head. So bringing that straight out 90 degrees. And there on the side is where we just cut in our previous section. And so now we can take this line. Coming out past a little bit to give myself room. And now parking the shear in place, how wide or how shallow I open it determines how deep of a texture statement I get. So notice that we just give ourselves some permission to mix it up there. But keeping my hand parked in one spot ensures if I'm not dragging it away, that I'm not going to accidentally end up with an increase in length as I'm moving down the section. Woo, any questions so far? We're doing great. Working my way around the head now.
Hey, Jesse, we got a question from Rua. How do you know how short to go with the layers? I saw you like picking up the fringe and kind of sliding past
Yeah. Well, in this case, and it was inferred or implied, depending on which side of this you're on, is that she had come to us with some existing fringe already. And so we kind of took that and ran with it for our perimeter, and we're using it to help us determine this length in the front here. In the salon, on a real life person, if I wasn't totally sure, after we had cut the perimeter here, let me back up a little. After we had cut the perimeter here, then we would begin to kind of say, interface, here's our perimeter at the bottom, here's where our first layer could be, what kind of pitch do I want to see to that? So this one's going to be highly layered, so I took it a little bit shorter with increased elevation. If I wanted to be a little more weightier, more shag-like with that dump vertically that happens this way, then we could just drop all of our elevation 90 degrees from the head form, but not to exceed 90 degrees horizontally, going above the round of the head. Lots of ways to get at it. In this case, we just kind of used what she brought to us. Hope that's okay. All right. Coming around here, let's take a little bit of the hair that we just cut, and we're going to push this away. She's starting to dry out on me a little bit, so let me just grab a little water. Okay. Little liquid clips there, as Hugo would say. All right, so we're working again about 1.5 inches to 2 inches, or an inch and a half to 1.75 inches. And now 90 degrees comes directly out from the head here. And notice that my finger position remains diagonal back in accordance to the parting. There it is. And my hand will be the same. We're avoiding this or this. Hey! What would happen in this diagonal parting if we were to change something? We're beginning to cause unwanted elevation and over direction to be happening within that section. So we're going to stay just right there with it. There's where we left off cutting right there. So we're going to bring our hand out past it a little bit and then get inside and make our cuts. Notice that I'm keeping my hand and the shear stationary. How deep or how shallow we go is really determined by how wide we open the shear. Bringing this down, let it work back a little bit. Coming around the bend here, working our way to the back. We'll take just a little bit of the hair that we just cut, push the rest away. And we keep our partings parallel to the sections that exist. Notice that my partings or my finger position or rotation relative to section is starting to drift a little more horizontal, because guess what? This line is as well. So we're just following that. And give me a little bit of what we just cut. And working in a section size that is small enough that we're not reflecting the round of the head in there. There's where we just cut, and we're coming from the top. Actually, I'm not in a good spot for you. Let me turn. There we are. As we come around to the back of the head, 90 degrees is here. And notice that my hand is not rotating away from that parting, just like that. Shear is more or less stationary, but we're making small or big statements, depending on how much we open or close the shear. Coming around to center back now. Let me grab a little water. Perfect. Right here at center back. Take a little bit of what we just cut. And our section size should be about 1.25 to 1.5 inches. There's where we just cut. So I'm going to bring my hand back to that almost horizontal position, which is what's being dictated by the parting. Cutting real deep for texture. We'll come around to the other side. Oh, she really got parched over here. Let's give her some dampness. There you go. If you guys are doing good out there, throw a thumbs up or something into the comments feed just so I can know that I'm not alone on Valentine's Day in a 10 by 10 room in South Nashville, Tennessee. So for this one, we're going to cut from behind. What's the best way to section a circle parting? I struggle with straight partings. We all do, yes, most definitely. Sectioning is a great equalizer, and that's for myself, when I see someone who can really section, that's where I want to go hang out a little bit. The hair, when it gets cut, who cares, right? I want to see someone with a plan. So I would say section as much as you can. Even if you think your haircut doesn't require it, just put yourself through the motion of traveling your comb over somebody's nugget and just getting used to that terrain and getting used to making those movements. It is something that I think takes a lot of effort and constant diligence, because for myself, I can say, when I'm not paying attention to my sectioning in the salon, things start getting pretty sloppy. So section a lot, section often, section even if you don't think that you need to. So now looking for symmetry here, I'm just going to pull a little bit of hair up from about where we are on the other side. And that's where we're going to be here. So we're going to make that about that length. So drawing past that area and then making my cuts. Once again, the shear is more or less stationary. I'm actually resting the tang on the nugget here. And that brings that out. And you can check yourself. Pull a piece of hair from about the same place on each side of the head and just bring them up and compare. They should be about the same length. And if not, then we know that right then and there, we make an adjustment before we continue. Taking a little bit of what we just cut, pushing that away. And like we said, section size should be about 1.5 inches to 1.75 inches. Depending on the size of the person's head. But we adjust the section size to make sure that we don't see a lot of curvature coming from the skull. Now, why am I standing behind when I stood on the front a moment ago? And so it's a little nerd point that I'm going after these days in my world. Once again, after watching the Master DJ Muldoon talking about creating symmetry through the way that we manipulate the hand and the shear. So I want these angles, the angles we created on this side as we cut through, we're going short to long, from top to bottom, going this way. But for me to create that on this side, the shear has to enter the hair in a similar fashion. Are we doing it exactly the same way on both sides? Maybe not. But what we're avoiding doing is point cutting on one way, and then watch as my shear travels across and point cuts on the other side, creating entirely different angles. So that's the concept here that I've been noodling with, just trying to keep myself from getting lazy at the chair. 90 degrees here, making sure I'm not rotating away, draw past the cut position, keep the shear stationary, and create your deep texture. I feel like a goofball sometimes in the salon when I'm trying to hold myself to the higher standard of something that I saw that impressed me or gave me that cognitive dissonance, the knowledge of knowing that the way that I've been doing something simply cannot continue because I've been armed with new knowledge and I want to put it into practice. So don't be afraid to look like a kook at the chair. If you're going for something new, if you're trying new body positions, let people know. So they don't think that you're like having a fit or something. Let them know that you're trying something new, taking care of your body. I've got some neck and shoulder issues now that just won't quit. So it's making me have to redefine the way that I move, using that chair more often. Coming at it from this side now. Let me get in front of it here for you. And here we go. So now bringing this out 90 degrees. There's the hair that I previously cut at the top of the section. And we're going to come past it and get on top of it. Just really keeping the shear in one spot, but controlling how deep the texture goes by opening and closing the shear to that effect. Push that out of the way. I'm getting a little droopiness there, so let's just throw a clip on that and we'll move around. Got about 2 sections left here. Give me just a little bit of what we just cut. Oops, yeah. And now we're here. Bringing this straight out from the head, 90 degrees. And that's going to look this way to you as well. Right about there. 90 degrees up. And I want my angles to be going short to long towards the back of the head, just like I did on the other side. So alley-oop, over the top we come, and we begin to make those cuts. And every now and then, I want to just take hair from similar spots here at the corner backs and just pull that out and make sure that the length I'm getting is consistent. Right there, even with each other. Take a little bit of what I just cut, and I'm moving to my final section here that's going to connect me to the center back and the other side. Notice now that my section is almost horizontal as we've worked our way around the head. Awesome. So Susan wants to know, why are you taking the perimeter into it? Okay, that's an assumption on my part, Susan. So let me just show you. It is my assumption, and I think I'm correct, is that in this one section, if I were to bring all of it, let me just show you where it is, right there, that I theoretically should only be taking what I'm about to cut and maybe just like a little bit of what's happening underneath it. But you can see that my perimeter here to the cutting position, there just really isn't any way that could possibly reach. So in my mind, what I'm thinking about is, assumption of safety is that by the time I elevate to the top of this parting, which is where my cutting position is, that there's absolutely none of that that's possibly making it. So yeah, good eyes. You got me on that one. Putting a little slop on it today. I'm sorry. Yeah, but that's what I'm doing. I'm kind of just assuming that I wasn't going to get it if I brought it up there. Bad Jesse. I love that. Has anyone ever told you you're like the Bob Ross of haircutting instructors? So detailed and calm. It's kind of soothing to follow along with. Hey, thanks. I grew up watching all of that old programming as a kid. Maybe Bob Ross, Captain Kangaroo, The Muppet Show, Sesame Street, Electric Company, all of those shows as a kid, they probably imprinted on me. I probably took a lot of naps to Bob Ross. Probably did. Hey, anytime you want to take a nap, then come get on here with me. I will soothe you into a somnambulistic haircutting experience. Please join me. All right, coming around to the next section. We are going to run out of time. If you guys are having a good time, throw me a little thumbs up in there. Hello, Sanu from India. Man, all right. I love it when we get people from all over. I'm like, I want to go to Pakistan and do a haircut class, man. I want to go to India and do some haircutting classes. Somebody let me know so we can come out there and do that. I think it would be a blast. I've never really gone international before. That would be fun to try one time. Sammy's got some good stories. Don't ask him. All right, coming around the mountain here. Look at that section, getting smaller and smaller, the concentric circle idea. Or, diagonal heading towards the back of the head, following the curvature of the head. So much fun stuff you can do with this. Please try. Another ½ inch. Cool. Hey, you know what? I've been to Indiana, and at some certain parts of it did feel like a foreign country, but that's every state. Yeah, I love them all. I really got to go around a lot. Back in the day when we were doing a lot of education on the road, got to see a lot of really, really awesome, interesting towns. I went through a phase where I really wanted to have like an Americana experience. So for like 3 years, I just did not use chain anything. So no chain hotel, no chain restaurant. I was hunting down those like local diners and local motels. Some of it was fun. Okay. Here we go. Once again, dropping down a little bit more. We're going to take that parting at center just to separate ourselves out. And guess what? We're going to keep going. Working about 1.5 inches to 1 3/4 inches. Elevating straight up. Now what I'm looking for here is where we cut from previous underneath, and you can see it kind of poking out right there. So what I want to decide is now, do I want this to really hug the head? And if so, then I'm going to stay at a strictly pure 90 without any over direction. A lot of these shapes, and the shape that the lovely Marion Cotillard was wearing, major props to whoever cut that. It did definitely appear to have a little more weight towards the back. So what we're going to start doing now that we have our first layer established and the perimeter is that we will over direct forward to the previous parting. So just like so. And now we look for that previously cut section. We'll draw past it a little bit, and then once again, make our cuts. So over directing forward slightly. Coming around the mountain here, take a little bit of what we had cut before, take a little bit of what had been cut underneath. Here, I'm going to make this one nice and clean for you, Susan. There you go. So just a little bit of what we had underneath there, and then a little bit from previous right there. I'm going to put myself back in position. So going up, this is 90 degrees to the top of the parting, and then we are going to over direct forward a little bit. So the diagonal sectioning can be a little confusing because it looks a little bit like elevation and a little bit like over direction, but we're dealing with the movement that's very specific here, side to side movement. So over direction is going to go and come forward just that little 1/2 inch or so. Bring that there. That's the sound of over direction. See if we can get that one in the holiday team meeting gag reel, Katie. Don't do it. All right, coming around the bend. Take a little bit of what we just cut, a little bit of what was underneath there. Get that out of the way. Get that out of the way. All right, so I'm getting a little lower on the head. I'm going to change my body position. Coming around, just like that. Yeah. And so this would be 90 degrees to the top of the parting. And then we're going to over direct forward slightly. So make that final combing I've been taught towards the point of over direction. That way the spine is really pulling everything along. And look, there goes the place where we just cut, and we're going to get on top of that. Oh, cool. Tried to hold it like Sammy. Did not work. Come on around. 2 more quick sections to carry us to the center back. Notice that we're keeping ourselves totally parallel to the partings. We're not twisting or rotating our hand away. As this is air drying a little bit, we start to kind of fuss it into shape a little. If she has some wave that wants to show up, we're going to let that start to form up. Last cut here on the right side. This elevates straight out. Then we drop that elevation just a little bit. So we're saying we're adjusting that over direction. By the time we get to these horizontal partings, it really results in more of a pushing down. So as the section is curved, on the top we're pushing forward, on the sides we're pushing forward, on the sides we're pushing forward. But by the time we get to the back here, it's really just a slight drop in the elevation a little bit. Other side. Let's see, I need to be here. So just a little more dampness on this side. She's getting parched on us. Okay. Shirley says, I'm imagining my people's faces if I make goofy noises while I cut. I may do it just to see their reaction. Take it from me, I do it. And, truly, I take a lot of inspiration from my tattoo artist. The guy is an ace, and he is a pure professional, but he does things his own way, and I respect him for that. So he was talking about one time I was being tattooed by him, and I was saying, Brandon, I think I'd really be more comfortable if you would just, let me lay this way. And I'll never forget his response. He said, well, for this, if you think about it, it's really more important that I be comfortable. And of course, my little mind was blown. He's right, of course. So you take that to the chair, and what you realize in a hurry, I realized it over years, is that the guests or the clients, they love us, they do, but they don't come for the conversation. And so definitely do it your way. If you want to be quiet and cut hair, do it. If you want to make sound effects, do it. If it helps you deliver a great result, I don't really think it matters that much about being idiosyncratic with your behavior, as long as the guest leaves with a result that they are happy with and want to talk about to others. You get that done, you can dress up however you want, act however you want, and still get a good living. I think that's one thing that I really love about where our industry has gone in the past few years, is that we have a little bit of an undue emphasis on making sure that people understand who we are, and that they, get a slice of our authenticity every time they come into us. And a lot of us are kind of pushing a lot of our own style and personality in front of us at the chair. And that used to be considered a big professional no-no, but not so much anymore. And it's even worked out for old codgers like me, because, now I don't feel guilty if I don't wear a tie to work anymore. I can relax a little bit, and I'm having a lot more fun behind the chair. So in a very roundabout and overly verbose manner, that is my answer to that question, is that have fun. If you're doing great work, people will love you for it. I mean, look at Bob Ross, right? Someone brought that up earlier. And old hippie guy, definitely had a style all unto himself. And, the man has left his legacy and left this earth a long time ago. But he is still the topic of popular conversation and media and T-shirts and all kinds of great stuff. So that just goes to prove to you that you can be different. As long as you are respectful of others, you can be anything that you want at the chair and make a great living. Good luck. Sorry for the sermonizing. I'm in my gratitude phase of my career. My body is beginning to let me know that I'm probably not going to be able to do some of the things that I do for much longer. So definitely thinking about legacy and who I'm going to give my clients to when my body breaks, and what kind of attitude that I want our clients to be able to be happy with, right? How we doing out there, folks? Do great work and have fun. Just do it. There's so many ways to get in trouble with our mouths anymore. I feel like speak with these babies, who cares about this and what I think about anything? I'm going to show you what's up with these babies, keep you coming back for more, and then, give you my haircutting love on Valentine's Day.
Awesome. You're doing great, Jesse. I haven't seen this comment come up, but I have it personally. When you're out cutting, are you more so cutting the hair at a diagonal, or do you ever come in like straight parallel when you're out cutting?
Absolutely. Let's talk about that. We got a few minutes left here before the program starts to wrap up. And I think someone throw a comment out there if you're wrong, but I believe I've cut a lot of sections for you. Is anyone having any questions on what we've been doing so far and how we got there? Those ideas about establishing balance and symmetry, and then working a textured idea, but not overworking it. So awesome question. When we're out cutting, the angle of the shear and the line that it creates. This is my obsession right now. So I'm going to try not to spend the last 10 minutes of our program talking about only that. But yeah, a couple of quick points to illustrate. I lost her face. There she is. Okay. So bringing this up, I'm going to come in kind of tight here for you. Cool. So yes, definitely. You want to be mindful. Hang on, let me get rid of some of this. There we go. You want to be mindful of how the shear is interfacing with the grain of the hair. So if I put tension on this and I'm moving all of this hair up with nice tension at this line, if I bring my shear in to slide cut at too much of an angle, so now I've put a pretty aggressive little hole in there. Yeah. So, how steep or how shallow that angle is going to determine if we just like shave off a little bit or if we really get in there and make a big statement. So yeah, definitely give your hand out, enough room for you to get that in there and work it the way that you want to. You may have noticed as I was coming around the back, I'll own it, really, really tight. And sometimes the shear was getting just a little bit more bite maybe than I might have wanted it to. But that's one of those like on the fly decisions that we can make behind the chair, is that part was supposed to be textured. So I kind of forgave that deeper notch that we got there. Awesome questions. I love this. All right, so let's get a little moisture back on her. Cool. Yeah, I'll be back on Thursday with the man himself, Mr. Sam Villa. I have been dying for years to become a part of our school campaigns. We got like 100 and something schools out there that use our gear and get information from us and education from us. So if you are a hair student, I believe that you guys can tune in or at least get like a teaser of it for sure. But then if you'd love to become a partner school, definitely have your powers that be. Get in touch with Kurt here at the company, and then you'll get to see a little bit more than us. I'm hoping before the end of 22 that I get to stomp my boots on the floor in a hair school somewhere and have a blast with the kiddos and their instructors. So here we go, straight up 90 degrees. Here's the place where I just cut. And once again, we're over directing that forward to the previous section. Make that final combing towards that place. There we go. Now getting on the inside. So here's where I was saying, give your hand room. So boom, there with the pieces that we just cut. I need enough space to play. And I know that the line we want to create lies in the median, somewhere in there. So a little shorter than that, a little longer than that is okay to get that texture. Can we bring that back up one more time? And going out past that line and now getting in there. So going real deep, parallel, then notch into it and get back in there and pull out some bulk and then chip an end, right? However you want to have fun with that. That's the beauty of it, is that and it's not really a technique that's gonna really explode in your face if you try it on someone. So please do try it on somebody. I work with our junior stylist at the salon every Monday. In fact, I'm heading right there after this. And, we always ask a lot of questions about, what happens if you do this? What happens if you do this? And, the best answer I could give you is that please try, please try and find out. Every great master that I've seen working in this, first of all, would tell you that they're probably one of the bigger screw ups out there because they just know how many times they've made mistakes, and you internalize that and it becomes our lessons. But don't be afraid to make the mistake. That is a little bit of a systemic issue right now among new hair students, is that, we don't have a lot of people right now who are just like, hey, let's try this. Let's go for it. So don't be afraid of that failure. What I always tell the kids at work is that, the worst thing that could possibly happen is that they leave and never return. Yes, that's bad. But if you learn a lesson in your world of cutting or coloring that is so powerful that it's going to change everything that you do after that on everybody that you ever see for the rest of your career, and you learn that lesson and you're never going to hurt anyone again, then yeah, that's good. And so you take those hits sometime. Building your clientele, it is war. And in war, there are sometimes casualties. You must not fear that failure. I've made a lot of people cry and a lot of people upset with me over the years, never to return. But, when I take my shot of whiskey at the end of the night, I raise it to those ones too, because thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you for helping me learn something that has benefited thousands of haircuts after you, right? So give it a shot. Don't be afraid to try it. Just a couple more minutes left. Let's finish up this one side, and I've got a finished benchmark that I can show you. So we got this coming. Look how tiny these guys are getting now. A little tiny dude just lives in the middle there. That's the last half of that circle, right up in the crown. So we'll just put a clip on that, get it out of there. And look at this little shape. First part of that round little half circle that we just took, it lives above and it lives below. So we're going to let those part off that way. Looking for about 1.5 inches to 1 3/4 inches for our section size. And let me get here where we can see this right. 90 degrees up, and then also over directing forward to the previous parting, looking for my previously cut hair, and then making those cuts. Have fun with your texture story. Sometimes you'll get someone who's in for a big transformation at the salon that day. They want something really big to happen. They're losing a lot of length. And if that's the case, get a little permission to play. Like I've got a couple texture techniques I'd like to try on you. Since we're going to be blasting this stuff off anyway, you mind if I just wail on it for a minute? And then you can have an opportunity on real life hair to let your hand get used to a new motion. Get used to trying something new. Last section. Look at this little fella. We're just going to bring him right up. 90 degrees right there. We'll take a little piece on top. We'll take a little piece from the bottom just to show us about where our fingers are going to be. And then we will direct this slightly forward to the previous parting. So here we go. And that puts us there. So we're going to analyze this one side. I got a little chatty on you, but that's why I bring a finished benchmark every time, because you just never know when the conversation might get good and then we may need to go in a different direction. So giving us that little bit of bobbed off shag. If you wanted to feel that a little closer to the jaw, go back in there and just take that right off. Here's the one that we had done in prep for today. This one brings up a little closer to the jaw there. So we get these nice layers, a little bit of hug to the back of the head right there, so it doesn't pile out too much. But then look at that nice broomsticky perimeter that we created through a series of just having fun, just zoning out, get in your zone and just chip away until you feel good about it. And what will happen is, even if they style this out straight, it'll have a sense of kind of choppy disruption at the bottom. So that also plays to the current trends. All right, I'm just going to look at the questions here. Make sure there's nothing that I missed. If there's anything last up, adjust those cuts according to the thickness of the hair. Absolutely. Those are kind of like the umbrella rules that apply to everything, is that, do whatever you want to do, have fun with it, but watch out, and just respect to the fabric that you're working with. If it's extremely fine hair or extremely coarse hair, we know that a lot of times we give allowances for length and density. So all of those things that you know to be true in your world of hair cutting already are still true, because they are principles, and principles are always self-evident and obvious, and you don't even have to be trained to see them take place. So respect those principles and everything that you do. Today's exercise was just meant to be fun, talking about body position and symmetry, and then the entry angle of our shears as we create what I would probably call, if I was the trend labeler of the universe out there, the round lob. Run with that if you want to brand it. Do it.
Oh,
All right.
awesome, Jesse, man. You had so much fun today. This was very entertaining to watch. And I love that outcutting is like an expedited, almost like razor cut effect. So
Well, and just like with razoring too, make sure that your cuts are measured. It's a real person with feelings that we're working on. I'm kind of a prep nerd, so when I see people just grab hair and just start doing stuff to it, I usually get pretty stressed out because my nerd brain goes right to like, what about that angle that they're creating? The elevation is different than the primary cut. Oh, now they've created a new subsection. Oh, what are they doing now? So, yeah, when you cut for texture, it is just as precise as cutting laser lines in the hair. Just remember that each cut has a beginning point and an ending point, and that we could decide where that is.
absolutely. That shape was gorgeous too. So thank you for sharing that. I'm sure you guys will all be getting these kinds of requests as the year goes on. We're seeing Bob's just continuing to move up the trend cycle. So thank you, Jesse, so much for sharing all your knowledge.
Thank you.